We're starting with a new system. Thank you for your patience. So let's start again. Motion to reconvene in open session. Tony and Jim, all those in favor? That's approved. I'll do the territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land in which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Just want to see if there's any declarations of pecuniary interest from the board. Seeing none, we move any closed session recommendations. Don't think we have any again. No. The consent agenda is 7.1 to 7.9. Does anyone have any items on the consent agenda they'd like moved to the regular part of the agenda? If not, I'd like to have someone remove a motion to approve all of the consent agenda items. Moved by Doug, seconded by Sandy. All those in favor? It's approved unanimously. 8.0 business arising from the minutes. There is none. Correspondence. There is none. We're on to police services reports. Don't believe we have any today. And now the chief of police reports. 11.1 use of force order 1. By starting with you, chief, with Hassan Siddiqui and Inspector Lewis.
Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board. Thanks very much. Look forward to a variety of topics of interest today, starting with the use of force Q1 for 2024 report. So be welcoming Inspector Eddie Lewis from Professional Standards and also assist to oversee training, education, and professional development, and Dr. Hassan Siddiqui from our Strategic Services unit. So over to you, Inspector and Hassan.
Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board, Chief Kroll, Deputy Fenton, and Deputy Davis. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. Again, it will be Hassan and I presenting the use of force statistical report for Q1 of 2024 for you this morning. Before we move to the next slide, I just want to recognize the folks really that are behind gathering the stats. Having moved just recently to this side of the house, there is a significant amount of work, so appreciation to them. If we can move to the next slide, the background. The current presentation covers data from use of force reports from January 1st of this year up to March 31st. In this presentation, we'll talk about both reportable incidents and use of force reports. A reportable incident refers to those incidents that require use of force as per legislation and or WRPS procedure. A single report can generate several use of force reports as stated on the slide there for you, one for each officer. Please recognize that each use of force report does go through several layers of scrutiny, including by the staff sergeant on the platoon, the senior leader in charge of the division or branch, and then finally the sergeant in training and education that's responsible for reviewing those. If we can go to the next slide, please. The summary of the use of force reports. So in Q1 of 2024, there were 84,369 police occurrences and 3,782 arrests. Use of force reports incidents did increase slightly from 99 in Q4 of 2023 to 107 in Q1 of this year. The number of modernized use of force reports has gone down slightly from 174 to 161 in this quarter. However, the proportion of police interactions involving force has stayed the same as in previous quarters, which is at 0.1%. Move to the next slide, please. And we'll be talking about incident types. This graph depicts the number of use of force reports created, separated by incident type. If you look to the far right, you see that the most common incident type represented was for weapons calls. And warrant execution, which would be on the left of the screen, was the second most common type of incidents for this first quarter of 2024. Move to the next slide, please. For options, and again, I'm just seeing the brackets excluding CEWs. In Q1 relative to Q4, we observed decreases in handgun drawn and handgun pointed reports. There was a decrease in the number of rifles drawn reports, while the number of rifles pointed reports remained relatively stable. One handgun was discharged in this quarter. And we'll go to the next slide. CEW use. Overall, there was significant. There was a significant dip in the number of CEW reports for this quarter. Specifically, we observed a drop in the number of CEW pointed reports. And the next slide, which I think will be my last one before I turn it over to Hassan. Summary of injuries. In Q1, there were 6 minor injuries that were reported. As a reminder for this section, minor injuries refer to any injury where a subject was treated by medical staff but was not admitted to hospital. Injuries could include abrasions, puncture wounds, or stitches. There were 2 major subject injuries in this quarter, including 1 fatality. Thank you for your time. I know you have a busy morning, and I will turn it over to Hassan.
Thank you so much, Inspector Lewis. Thank you, Chief, Chair McLean, and members of the board for the opportunity to present to you again today. As always, I'll be presenting the race-based data collection strategy with respect to use of force. As a reminder, starting in 2023, the numbers on the table do not reflect individual people, but rather officer perceptions. For example, if 4 officers fill a use of force report involving the same subject, all 4 perceptions will be included in the data, even though those perceptions are about the same individual. In Q1, there were 38 perceptions of Black individuals in use of force reports. This corresponds to about 19% of all perceptions from Q1. There were 28 overall perceptions of Middle Eastern individuals in use of force reports. This corresponds to 14% of all perceptions. And white individuals, again, were the most represented group in use of force reports, totaling 97 perceptions, which represents 49% of all perceptions in Q1. Black individuals were overrepresented in use of force reports when compared to the resident population by a factor of 4.06. This is relative to 3.72 in 2023. Middle Eastern individuals were overrepresented in use of force reports by a factor of 4.7 relative to 2.5 in 2023. And East and Southeast Asian individuals were overrepresented in use of force reports by a factor of 1.49. This is the first time we have observed a disproportion ratio above 1 for this demographic group. Lastly, we'll move on to racial disparity. There was no evidence of racial disparity in use of force reports in Q1 2024. The highest benchmark value was for Black individuals at 0.39. This number is far below the threshold of evidence for racial disparity, which would sit at a ratio of 1.5. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Well, thank you for the report. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the update. Moving on, 11.2, which is innovation and modernization. Inspector Kent, I don't know, Chief, if you want to start off on this, but over to you.
Thanks very much, Chair McLean. I'm just going to have Deputy Chief Eugene Fenton introduce Inspector Kent and just briefly outline the work of the Innovation and Modernization Unit. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board. Happy to present this item to the board today. So our Innovation and Modernization team was made kind of a permanent entity in June of last year, and Inspector Mike Kent was chosen to lead this unit. So the purpose of today's presentation is just to give you an update on some of the work they're doing and some of the technology investments that the board has made on behalf of the service and how those are progressing. So I'm going to turn over to Mike.
Sorry, just having a little trouble unmuting myself there as I shared my screen. Chair McLean, members of the board, good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. It's saying, am I muted now? Can you hear me?
You're all good.
Perfect. It was saying I was muted. So thanks for having me this morning to briefly speak to the status of the Innovation and Modernization Unit, or IMU. As Deputy Fenton said, its purpose of the board is to update the board on the accomplishments of IMU and to inform the board and the public about the expansion of the body-worn camera systems to our South Division. Again, as Deputy Fenton alluded to, the IMU was created in June of 2023 with the mandate to leverage new technology or practices to improve performance and efficiency for the betterment of our members. The team is comprised of myself, Sergeant Tim Peterson, our project analyst, Tracy Kupis, and we're currently in the process of hiring a project coordinator. The IMU is formed out of the recognition of the need to have a dedicated project team, similar to the team that was used to implement our modernization project that brought in body-worn cameras and in-car cameras. Since its inception, the IMU team has been focused on completing the implementation of all of the aspects of that modernization project. Some of the key deliverables associated to that project that we've been working on over the last 10 months include the expansion of the body-worn camera program to the South Division and the introduction of ALPR. As you may recall, in December of 2022, the board approved the phased deployment of body-worn cameras. That approval included the deployment of body-worn cameras to South Division this year. Over a number of months, the IMU team completed the training of our South Division patrol members and deployed body-worn camera systems to those members. We're proud to say that that implementation is now complete on schedule. Members of the public were reminded of the expansion of that body-worn camera system through the use of social media. We now have 379 body-worn cameras deployed across North Division, South Division, and some of our frontline specialty units. In mid to late 2023, the IMU also trained frontline members on the use of our in-car camera systems, including the automated license plate reader technology, or ALPR. And then we supported the deployment of those systems. We now have 104 vehicles equipped with ALPR technology. ALPR has been identified as a motivating factor leading to a number of enforcement activities of offenses that may have previously gone undetected. Audio and visual cues of the officers' mobile terminals will alert them to vehicles whose license plates are connected to offenses. These notifications range from minor traffic violations to stolen vehicles. And as a result of these notifications, significant seizures of drugs and firearms have resulted in investigations that began with ALPR hits. The photo on the left of your screen is one example of a seizure that resulted from an investigation triggered by an ALPR hit. We're continuing to find new ways to expand the use of that technology to better serve the community. The IMU team is continuing to act as subject matter experts for all of the Axon technology that was implemented as part of the modernization project, and we continue to support our frontline members in the use of that technology. The team's also working on a transition plan to hand off some of those responsibilities to other areas of the service so we can focus on the next big project. Looking to the future, we're hoping to tackle e-notes as the next major service-wide project, and we're currently in the early exploration phase of that and researching that technology. E-notes is an emerging technology across all of policing that replaces paper notebooks and will fundamentally change the way that officers record their day-to-day activities. We expect that the implementation will result in significant efficiencies by reducing duplication of work and manual labor and tasks like scanning and retention, as well as easier access to those records. Do you have any questions at all?
Okay, well, thank you for the report. Lots of innovation happening, and some of the things that we passed over the year, body-worn cameras and not, which is great to see how they're coming into place. Any questions from the board or comments? Don't see anything. So thank you very much for the presentation today. We'll look forward to hearing more as rollout occurs and we get more results. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, 11.3, it's like Groundhog Day, we're gonna talk about St. Patrick's Day. I think, Chief, I don't know if it's Inspector Mancuso or yourself, who wants to start this off?
Thanks very much. I'm just going to pitch to Deputy Chief Davis to introduce Inspector Mancuso. And this month we have some additional details to provide to the board. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks very much. I'm happy to introduce Inspector Mancuso, who oversees our emergency services and public safety unit. Part of that is our major events unit as well, which is primarily tasked with the planning and logistics for events such as St. Paddy's Day. So I will turn it over to Donna to give an update about our most recent St. Paddy's Day event. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair McLean, Mayor, members of the board, chief and deputies. I'm not sure if is Megan doing the PowerPoint, or am I sharing my screen here?
I have it.
I think they're doing it on this end, is that right?
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go, perfect. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to start off with sharing some of the highlights from St. Patrick's Day this year. These events, as everybody knows, take a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration. So I wanted to start with talking about our collaborative partnerships. This is the only way that we can really give exceptional service to our community for events like this. So I want to start by thanking our partners. That includes City of Waterloo Municipal Enforcement Services, Waterloo Paramedic Services, Wilfrid Laurier University, and Waterloo Fire and Rescue. Another one of our highlights here that I wanted to talk about, and I'll get into it a little later on, but I wanted to touch on it right now, is how we've embraced modernization. And with St. Patrick's Day this year, we used CCTV cameras, and we used that as a pilot project to support the St. Patrick's Day operations. And again, I'll touch on that a little bit later on. One of the other things I wanted to highlight was our decrease in citizen-generated calls for service. So in 2023, we had 119 of those, and in 2024, we decreased that to 71. And I think that that speaks volumes of our proactive initiatives. And when I say our proactive initiatives, I mean as a collaboration with these partnerships that we have. So there's a lot of planning and preparedness that goes into St. Patrick's Day and these larger events in general. And again, I think that this speaks volumes of our partnerships with our members, our City of Waterloo by law enforcement, Waterloo Paramedic Services, Laurier, and Waterloo Fire and Rescue, because we do a lot of proactive reach outs to some of the residents in that area. And again, I think that that's led to the decrease in our calls for service there. This slide I just wanted to highlight for everybody. This is the unsanctioned gathering at its peak, and this is about 3:15 in the afternoon on Saturday, March 16th. So, and that's another thing to note is that St. Patrick's Day, the unsanctioned gathering this year took place on March 16th, which was the Saturday. What you're looking at there is that's Marshall Street, and at the top of that photo is Regina Street. That's approximately 9,500 people on Marshall at Regina. Next slide, please. So now to get into the CCTV pilot project. So WRPS set up the cameras in the University District for 4 days. So we started on the Friday right through to the Monday. So we did this in collaboration with the City of Waterloo. And we did develop a privacy agreement that was in line with the provincial guidelines. This pilot was meant to support the operational response to any crowd management issues or criminal incidents related to an unsanctioned gathering event. This was a really good opportunity for us to test cell-based CCTV technology where there were large crowds an increase in cellular data transmissions, which traditionally fails. So this was a really good testing ground for us. And as you can see on the right there, that notice was posted on the posts where every camera was deployed. That signage was also posted 5 days in advance of the cameras going up in order to be transparent and to give the public notice. Next slide. So here's an overview of our deployment. As I stated earlier, at our peak, there were about 9,500 people along Marshall Street, close to that Regina Street area. In total, the costs this year were $318,000. And then you can see the breakdown of the costs there on the right-hand side, so on-duty salaries, planning and analysis, and logistics, and overtime. In total, there were 387 occurrences. And again, 71 of those were citizen-generated calls for service. And there were 257 charges laid in comparison with 230 in 2023. And when we get into the next slide, I'll show you where that increase potentially comes from. This year, there were 10 arrests compared to 18 in 2023. Next slide. So this is our charge and incident summary here. So of note this year, we did increase our deployment on Friday evening, March 15th. And we did that proactively just to ensure that if there were any pre-St. Patrick's Day events, excuse me, that we were prepared to deal with those. And that's where you'll see the increase, a slight increase in those total for charges. So on that Friday alone, we laid 19 charges. There were 19 extra charges that night. So that's what that does contribute to that increase of the overall 257 charges for 2024. And that sums it up. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody has any questions.
Well, thank you very much for the update, and I guess any questions for our colleagues, but I maybe first one, 318,000, and that's just the police service. That does not account for City of Waterloo, what the universities are paying, or I think EMS. So there's additional costs. I mean, we're well over 500,000 in the way to $600,000. Is that a fair assessment for this unsanctioned event?
Absolutely, yes. That's just the WRPS costs. I can't speak to the other agencies and what costs they've incurred as well.
Any questions right now? From my colleagues? I have a few comments and then would like to, and I'm in the chair, so I can't move a motion, but I'd like to put something forward. This feels a lot like Groundhog Day. I spent 7 years as the Uptown Councillor in Waterloo City Council, and that dates, Doug would say that was 100 years ago, but it was only 2003. But from 2003 to 2010, we dealt with this each and every year, and it got worse and worse and worse. And I would spend at least 2 days after the St. Paddy's Day dealing with residents and how they had been disrupted and all of these issues. So this has been 20 years plus that this has been going on. And I continue to be very concerned, both as a citizen, police board, but first from public safety with this unsanctioned event. And let's remember, it's an unsanctioned event for a very good reason. Not only the massive cost in terms of the time and the resources from police and all of our public service agencies, but the impression that I think is left with the public is that this is okay, and it's not. And mostly, and I've said this from my time as a council, and I would say this again today, I'm really concerned because the inevitable is going to happen. There's a huge risk of catastrophic injury and or death when you have that many people in places that is not meant for that kind of gathering, particularly when alcohol is involved and drugs and other parts. So it's entirely foreseeable and preventable that could happen, and it's preventable but we have to try some new things. And we talk about this every year, not only the cost, but the logistical issues, the cost of safety, how to manage it. And I think that's where we've unfortunately got onto, is that this is about managing something that we now accept as inevitable, and I don't think we should. So it's long past due, in my view, and this is not to disrespect the work of the bylaw folks and Inspector Mancuso and others. This is at the senior levels. We have to say this is no longer acceptable in our community. We can't allow this to happen. So I would like the board to consider perhaps asking the chief to convene a ad hoc group, but at the most senior levels. So the university presidents, the college president, the mayor of Waterloo, someone from this board, and the chief, to look at this and say, what are some of the things that we have not done, some of which may be uncomfortable and things we thought we might not be able to do, but we need to have that conversation because this has to stop. If and when someone gets catastrophically injured or dies, people will start pointing fingers, and that's inevitable. And I think we need to get ahead of this and say, both from a cost and a safety perspective, this needs to be addressed. So I maybe ask the board to consider, having a little task force and making sure that they report back in, say, September, so that we've got lots of time to plan for whatever the new tools are that our community, not just police, but our community should be putting in place. So I put that forward because I at the risk of just saying we say the same thing over and over again and nothing seems to change at this point. So I put that to my colleagues and look for some comments. Doug?
Well, Mr. Chair, I certainly endorse your leadership on this. And I will move the motion that you have suggested, okay, that this go forward. And I think what it is, it's a motion to take us into September, that we would then come out with options to really mitigate what has been happening. And I agree with you totally about the possibility of a tragic event. This is just sitting out there. And so I think the motion in itself, in terms of bringing the key players together and with recommendations to come in the fall, is a step forward for the community.
Is there a seconder? Sandy, comment?
Yeah, thanks. I agree with what you and Doug both said. I would also wonder about including other emergency services in that meeting.
I think if I might, that we give ask the chief to do this and he's free to add the appropriate folks, and if it needs to be emergency services or EMS or whomever, but it needs to be the senior person at these organizations, because I think we all, need to, it needs that emphasis. So I think if we can leave that with the chief to put the group together, if there's, and I agree with you, maybe EMS.
Yeah.
Totally.
You've already have someone that's moved the motion and seconded. So I'm gonna propose, I'm gonna support it as well. I just like to highlight, it's not only the risk of individuals within this gathering, we're diverting really scarce and precious services of EMS, police services, etc., away from other areas within the broader community. And my fear is as well, is there could be emergencies in those areas that will not receive the due and prompt response that's needed, especially now when we hear about EMS and these red alerts, etc. So I fully support, and as Doug said, I applaud yourself for coming forward with this motion.
Karen.
Yeah, I would suggest that our risk profile for this has significantly changed over the last couple of years. In addition to the other pressures that Tony mentioned, our emerge rooms are under siege. We have a lot of demands on police services for managing other demonstrations. So the risk profile has significantly changed. So I would support the motion as well.
Jim.
Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate, I think this is a great idea that especially with the senior levels of all these organizations to come together with the chief. So I support it as well. Thank you.
I guess we should ask the chief whether he's willing to take this on. Maybe chief, if you want to weigh in, whether it's a reasonable time frame, let's get it right now. Who should be involved? Is September an appropriate time to come back, which leaves enough lead time before St. Patrick's Day next year? So maybe if you can kind of respond to the motion as it's written, and if there's any adjustments we should make before we vote on it.
Certainly, and thanks for all the input, and I certainly speaking on behalf of the team, echo your concerns about the unsustainability that we've seen year over year from a cost standpoint, from a staffing and deployment standpoint, and most importantly, from a public safety and risk standpoint for those involved and for the surrounding community. So we're happy to take direction from the board, and we will work to come together with an action-oriented plan to inform next steps.
Okay, if there's no more comments, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor? That's passed unanimously.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and we'll look forward to hearing back from the chief in due course. Moving on, 11.4, this is 2024-2027 WRPS Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Strategic Plan. There is a motion before us. Chief, if you're starting, we're going right to Geraldine.
Thanks, Chair McLean. So we'll welcome our EDI manager, Geraldine Stafford. And she is, very proudly leading the efforts with many across the services for the creation and the adoption of this plan. So we've highlighted the recommendation to the board. There's new provisions within the Community Safety and Policing Act that the board, the municipality, and their service is bound to represent the community that we serve in many ways. So very proudly moving forward this strategic plan that will echo the wishes of our community, and Geraldine will walk us through some of the details. Thank you.
You can see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. So good morning. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board, and of course, my ELT team. I first want to start by acknowledging the service's commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And as the office reports right into the Office of the Chief of Police, it really further emphasizes and highlights the importance placed for its members and for the residents of the region in equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that support certainly does make my job easier. So thank you for that. So, I want to start off with the plan itself. So it is, Plan 2024 to 2027. So it is a 4-year plan, and that is in alignment with the new Police Services Act that mandates that a 4-year plan be put in place at a minimum. All right. Just taking you through. So just, starting at the territorial acknowledgement page, I just want to quickly, turn your attention to the dialogue on the side, the text on the side. This text actually mirrors the Indigenous greeting wall at the region of Waterloo, so representing 5 Indigenous languages and 17 greetings of welcome or hello. The table of contents. All right, so this is the welcome page, where the chair, chief, and myself explain the journey of the new plan. And, 3 takeaways that I really want to highlight from this welcome page. It speaks to the new provisions of the Community Safety and Policing Act and the importance of diversity within the definition of adequate and effective policing. It also acknowledges the complexity of modern policing, and it highlights the commitments to members and to the community so that we will engage in action-oriented and meaningful dialogue. It also is very much a nod to members and the community to trust the partnership that we've established, to take the journey with us over the next 4 years. All right, and then here we have our vision and mission and values. So these vision and mission values is a restatement of the services vision, mission, and values that are the main tenets of the strategic business plan, which actually is coterminous to the EDI plan. So when we are restating this, it truly highlights that the EDI plan is not and cannot be a standalone plan. In fact, it has to be side by side to the services strategic direction. So this here is the overview page, and of note, you will note on your left-hand side that there's 5 organizational commitments. Prior plans address these as pillars. We've now changed it to wording to include organizational commitments, and it really speaks to more intrinsic undertaking. And within this page, as the overview, I highlight an especially poignant sentence here. This plan is intentionally designed to inspire members to individually recognize and embrace their own diversity and potential to positively shape both the work environment and the service delivered to Waterloo Region. So this plan starts with an inner reflection of one's own diversity. And then moving on, we have the snapshot of Waterloo Region, which you're familiar with, as well as an updated snapshot of our membership. All right. So heading into our commitments. So the 5 of them are listed here, but I'll go into them, each just giving a brief overview of what that commitment is about. So total community engagement, that is commitment number 1. So as I said, there's 5 organizational commitment. So commitment number 1 doubles down on our efforts of community-led and informed collaboration. Community access to police and police services are also an important highlight, and also identifies the community safety and well-being plan as an important catalyst to that engagement. The second commitment, diversity competent members, is really about amplifying our members' diversity IQ, encouraging the participation of community to actually co-design and co-deliver facets of our training and education about the community. So this commitment really helps us understand the community that we serve. Commitment number 3, access to diversity of available talent. As WRPS looks to offer innovative and creative service delivery, the membership complement should be in tandem to support that. And really, when you are seeking the best talent, it does include diversity of thought and experiences. And so improved representation in the service enhances the delivery of that innovation and creativity that we seek, that will truly make WRPS best in class. Commitment number 4, leadership reflecting the region. If you look at this pillar, it's really forward thinking and imagines individuals seeing themselves represented in leadership. This commitment shapes expectations of the future direction of the service. But also the work must start today. So a lot of emphasis is on recruiting and promotion to ensure that our future state has leadership truly reflecting the region. Commitment number 5, secure and supportive workforce. We want each and every member to bring their whole and authentic selves to work. This is about valuing and celebrating the diversity of our members, and through meaningful mentorship and prioritization of their needs. So this is really about the members and how they come to work every day. So rounding out the EDI plan, we took a very reflective approach of the past few years and the years to come. In particular, some of the influences, some of the pressures, some of the going-ons that really influence the job. And it really forces us to be malleable and to adapt. Namely, we looked at 3 priority conversations. So looking at the current environment and the calls for change, required a really reflective, introspective look, and it brought us to our plans for reconciliation. So with reconciliation, I'm really proud of the approach that we took here, that essentially looks to the documentation of the experiences and impacts of Indigenous people. So we actually prescriptively commit through the 94 calls to action and the recommendation for the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls by really aligning our work to this documentation. We recognize the journey ahead to reconciliation has to be closely aligned with what the Indigenous people are telling us. So it is a critical intentional alignment that will take us through our journey. The next 2 priority conversations are about addressing systemic racism and discrimination. We will leverage evidence and data-based policing practices that we're known for through things like the race and identity-based data collection strategy to address systemic racism and discrimination for all those overrepresented in the data. Further, the work continues for all identities to advance conversations using a human rights lens and approach to mandate accountability and change. The EDI plan concludes with a discussion on hate and leans on the community safety and well-being plan, where hate was deemed a regional priority. This side-by-side approach encourages a greater collaboration in the region. So I present to you the 2024 to 2027 EDI plan, and very grateful for all those who contributed to getting us to where we are today.
Well, thank you, Geraldine. Great report and well put together, and we appreciate the update today. Are there questions or comments from the board? Sandy.
Thank you. Thanks, Geraldine, for the report. Obviously, this is a really complex issue, and I think you've covered a lot of spaces in it. I think at one point you talked about the document being, I forget the word you used, but fluid. So, or that perhaps the issue is fluid. How do we work towards that fluidity, I suppose?
Yeah. So, like I said, the approach of, really reflecting of where we've come from, and especially using examples of the past and, best practices of the past to address and deal with issues currently and to anticipate issues going forward that we may have to deal with. And I think that really comes to fruition when we look at the activities of the EDI unit, activities of the service that we're out there in community. And, we have our ear on the ground, we have relationships built that will, proactively bring, priority conversations to our attention. So I think that's really the way that we will be malleable and be able to adapt is to continue with those, the look past, look currently, and then looking forward using the established community relationships and the ones that we are looking to build as well.
Okay, thank you.
I love that word, malleable.
That's a good one.
Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great report, very complete, and I appreciate the aspirational nature of the report. I'm wondering if you could speak more about the word in terms of the first of the 5 commitments, the selection of the word total. I'm assuming that because it's aspirational in nature, we're always looking to improve and become more comprehensive and more inclusive as time goes on. But I wonder if you could speak a bit to the selection of that word.
Yeah. And also speaks to the tactics. Right. So, to reach community, you have to be malleable. You have to, meet community where they are. You have to go to their spaces. You have to invite them in. So it's really about that, the total double down approach to getting to community and ensuring that we are, speaking the language, that we understand community. So it's really about the tactics as well.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So first of all, commend you on the strategic plan, Geraldine. I think it's excellent. I'm a finance guy, so I'm always looking at numbers and metrics. It's easy for me, right? But in this strategic plan, could you just share how do you measure success or progress over the entirety of implementing the strategic plan, or how do you envision? Maybe you don't have the details yet, but.
One big indicator is the relationships, right? That's a huge one because, we understand that there are some relationships that, traditionally police and certain demographics of community, there's a legacy there. So I think progress within relationships is a big indicator, as well as trust, collaboration. So those are I know your finance, they're non-mandatory. And I think too, that's why when we think of the commitments, they're intrinsic, right? Because a lot of, what the equity, diversity, inclusion is about building those intrinsic trust and, in peace times, especially. So, inevitably when we are dealing with situations within community and, it'll have to go back and rely on the relationship, especially if it's an adverse situation. So I think the measurement is best measured on, progress of the relationships and, is community with us in bad times. So if we can, foster those relationships in good times, then we can really measure that in more volatile times or bad times that community stays with us.
Well, thank you. And kudos to your team as well and yourself.
Okay. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
Thank you. And just wanted to compliment Geraldine's comments there. And the last question is, we're trying to envision a period where the EDI plan will probably always be necessary, but truly embedded in the work that we do, and organic and just a natural flow of every piece of our operations. And to the last question about measuring, we know that a lot of that will be very appropriate to report to the board on our internal commitments. And so whether that's recruiting, whether that's education, whether that's our outreach, we'll be able to show those commitments in a tangible way. So how our members are involved in all those community activities, those will be part of the regular metrics of reporting to show those commitments over time. It's been recognized that this is one of the not only the fastest growing, but the most diverse places in all of Canada. So this is incumbent upon all of us to ensure that our efforts are truly focused in the best places. So we're excited to move forward, and we know that the community support is there, but the trust and confidence continues to grow with every day. So thanks very much for your comments.
Okay, I don't think there's any other comments. There is a motion here, subject, I think we're seems to be kind of consensus that this is, we're ready to move forward with this. So I think there's a motion, so based on the consultation here, that the Waterloo WRPS board approve and adopt Waterloo Regional Police Service 2024-2027 Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Strategic Plan. Can I get a mover? Jim moves that, and Karen quickly Hobbs. I got confused there. That's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Thank you for that great work, and we'll look forward to updates along the way. Okay, moving on, 11.5, which is Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, Intimate Partner Violence. Looks like we have Inspector Mathias and Staff Sergeant Hackborn. Chief, are you starting this off, or are we going right to the?
Yeah, just very briefly, thank you. Very happy to invite Inspector Mathias and Amy Hackborn, Staff Sergeant of our Intimate Partner Violence unit. And this is just our ongoing commitment to report not only our local WRPS commitments to community safety and well-being, but also the larger projects, relationships, and commitments that work in our community. So over to Inspector Mathias. Thank you.
Here we go. I think I've got settled now. Well, good morning, Chief, Chair McLean, and members of the board. I'm very pleased to join you today and provide a report regarding intimate partner violence in Waterloo region and the ongoing efforts of the Family Violence Project to address this epidemic. Framing our conversation in the Community and Safety and Wellbeing Plan, intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls were identified as regional priorities and adopted by the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan Steering Committee in October of 2023. Of note, members of and partners of the Family Violence Project are the first major component of an action table that will address IPV, intimate partner violence, from a regional level. As we give shape to the workflow and identify indicators, additional system and community partners will be added to help better understand the scale and required resources to effectively address this epidemic. Continuing with a quick refresh on background, we know that the work done by the Family Violence Project and delegation to Waterloo Regional Council and various municipal councils in articulating the importance of this issue brought definitive action to CKW Inquest recommendations number 1 and 10. Moving to look at our overall occurrences and charges for IPV related incidents, Waterloo Regional Police recorded 6,244 total IPV related occurrences for 2023 and laid a total of 3,788 IPV related charges. Looking across the previous 2 years, the number of charges and occurrences has remained stable with little deviation. Additionally, as of March 31st, 2024, the police service has recorded 1,588 IPV-related incidents, representing a 10% increase in total calls compared to the previous 4-year year-to-date average. Similarly, some stability translates to our divisional call distribution for IPV incidents. Incidents classified as 933 call type were divided regionally as follows, with Central at 36.3%, North Division at 34.3%, and South Division at 29.2%, which is nearly unchanged over the previous year. The ability to develop approaches and initiatives that will reduce IPV in our region requires an accurate landscape of what is occurring. And we begin by looking at IPV victim frequency in our region in 2022. We see that females represented 71% of victims for IPV-related incidents classified as either crime against the person or victim of property crime. And 29% of those victims in the same categories were male. Of the 71% of IPV female victims, those aged 34 to 40 comprised 32% of victims, followed by ages 20 to 30 at 31% and 40 to 50 at 18%. Similarly, for males, the age group of 30 to 40 represented the highest frequency of victimization. Moving on to our Family Violence Project partners, the Family Violence Project exists to provide community-based response to family violence with wraparound services in a single location, focusing on support, advocacy, prevention, education, and awareness. And there's a list of the involved agencies. Again, to understand the impacts of intimate partner violence, we can look at just a snapshot of information from our partners at the Family Violence Project. Beginning with the Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence Treatment Center. Between April 1st, 2023 and March 31st, 2024, 115 victims of IPV were seen at hospital within 12 days of experiencing assault. 82% of those victims had involved police, and that demonstrates that 29% are non-reporting at that period of time. Women's Crisis Services of Waterloo Region operates two of our local women's crisis emergency shelters in Selma House and Haven House. They house an average of 49 and 50 individuals, respectively, per month throughout calendar year 2023, in excess of their 45-person capacity. This is consistent with StatsCan reporting that 33% of short-term crisis shelters nationally were over capacity in 2022-2023. And between April 1st, 2022 and March 31st, 2023, 42% of individuals using those same shelters were children, again consistent with national averages reported by StatsCan for 2022 and 2023. Between April 1st, 2023 and February 29th, 2024, the Child Witness Center provided services and supports to 95 children for IPV-related incidents, while Camino and Wellbeing and Mental Health provided support to 1,496 individuals affected by gender-based violence between April 1, 2023 and March 31st, 2024. While providing support and counseling is both responsive and preventative, newly adopted programs have demonstrated success in intervening at an earlier phase of IPV. The Early Intervention Initiative pairs a police investigator and crisis outreach worker who intervene with couples who have 2 non-criminal IPV incidents reported within a 2-month time frame. Couples involved in the pilot phase of early intervention pilot conducted in 2023 demonstrated an 87.9% decrease in reported IPV incidents in the 2 months following the intervention and 75.6% decrease in calls in the 6 months following an intervention. Similarly, in Q1 of 2024, early intervention has shown an 88.6% decrease in reported IPV incidents in the 2 months following an intervention. And building on the initial results and success of early intervention, and with a continued focus on prevention, the Family Violence Project added the Engaging Men program. This offers one-on-one counseling support to men who use abusive behavior in their relationship. And of the 25 referrals made since September of last year, 60% have come from early intervention contacts. The goal of the program is to create healthier, safer relationships and families, and is provided at no cost to participants. Currently, 4 part-time male clinicians are delivering this programming. And moving to future plans for the collaborative, in February 2024, supported by the Region of Waterloo Corporate Strategy and Strategic Initiatives team, the Family Violence Project Steering Committee conducted strategic planning sessions to plan for sustainable growth and innovate future strategy. Planning allowed for the recognition of immediate and ongoing challenges, and also the ability to deliver programming to meet local community needs. The planning process allowed for current and future work to be rooted in the recommendations and calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, National Action Plan to End Gender-Based Violence, Mass Casualty Commission, and the CKW Inquest. Lastly, the Family Violence Project is truly an asset to the entire region and the members of our community. The partners undertake difficult and meaningful work each day and will provide their significant expertise to our collective work to address intimate partner violence. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the report. I would agree that Family Violence Project was 7 community partners in addition to the police. Another example of the service being in the community and working with partners for public safety in the broadest context. So, do we have any questions? Is that it, Inspector, or that's it? Any questions or comments from the board? Tom, thanks so much for that important.
I think Sandy had.
Sorry, problems. Right, it's gonna be strong. Sandy, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for including some statistics on children, even though they weren't part of your specific police stat. So I think that's important to remember, is the effect on the children and that they are part of that in so many ways.
I apologize, Sandy. I'm
That's okay.
not very skilled to begin with, but looking at the screen and missed your hand there. Tony, go ahead.
Just a quick question. I know over past times, with the services out there and this becoming more visible to the community, we're having, for example, more women come forward. Is there any type of statistics on how much of this is still invisible, that, you know, people are not coming forward? Do you have any sense of that? I mean, like I have these stats, but you know, I'm wondering if you could just, if you have any.
That's a good question.
Good morning, everyone. It is estimated that about 30 to 70% of victims are not reporting. So if we're only getting 30% of the victims reporting the number of intimate partner violence in the community, it really is astronomical.
Thank you very much.
Sobering. Lots of work to be done.
That's awful.
Okay, any other, I'm gonna make sure I look at the right place here. No more questions. Thanks so much for that report. Okay, moving on. I think we're done with Chief of Police report. We're up to the monthly Chief of Police report from Chief Crowell.
Thanks very much, Chair McLean. So just thanks very much for the opportunity to present a snapshot of the last month and also a look forward. So in the last month, we've seen the region's first homicide investigation occur on April 11th in the area of Homer Watson Boulevard and Block Line Road in the city of Kitchener. We had a 3rd homicide of the year. A male was found with a gunshot wound, was treated at local hospital and pronounced deceased. So investigators are continuing that investigation, and a lot of work involved to bring this investigation forward. So appealing to the public with any information that can be provided to police or Crime Stoppers. Also, I'll highlight a series of key operational commitments. So on April 10th and 13th, members of our Direct Action Response Team, the DART team, completed search warrants at local businesses in both Cambridge and Kitchener on 2 occasions, and seized a large quantity of psilocybin, or otherwise known as magic mushrooms, in various forms in Canadian currency. And over those 2 dates, a number of individuals were arrested and charged with various offenses. And this is our commitment to continue our focus on these illicit activities. We know there's a great community concern from a public health and also a public safety standpoint about these activities. There's been a number of events of violence in the community. So one incident occurred on April 4th, where 3 male suspects approached a female victim as she entered her car on Bellman Avenue in Kitchener, brandishing a firearm. In the course of this attempted incident, a number of males were attempting to force her from her vehicle. By quick action of our neighborhood policing members, emergency response team, also the direct action response team responded and located and arrested 2 suspects behind a business nearby, and a silver firearm was recovered at the time of arrest. There was another incident that caused great concern in the area of Blockline Road in the city of Kitchener, where it was reported that a male with a firearm was at a local high school. Through the investigation, we intervened and located what was a replica firearm or a BB gun, and a young male was arrested. And just highlight this because we've had a number of incidents recently where replica firearms, BB guns, that of the sort had been deemed to be real by members of the community and causing great concern. So we've put out some public messaging this week to relay those concerns that they are treated as real until deemed otherwise. There was another incident that occurred in the area of Guelph Street and Sarita Road in Kitchener, where 2 males forced their way into a businesses, conducted an assault with a firearm and damaged and stole property. A male fled the area, and through the course of investigation, about a week later, officers arrested and located the male and conducted a search warrant at a Hamilton residence. And during the search, a large quantity of narcotics, 2 handguns, and a quantity of Canadian currency and stolen property were also located. And that just gives a snapshot of the highly complex and dynamic investigations conducted by our frontline investigative teams. And one longer-term investigation to highlight is our commitment to human trafficking. So members of the human trafficking team, the Intelligence Services Branch and Provincial Asset Forfeiture Unit conducted a search warrant at a business and residence in Cambridge, and ultimately 2 individuals were arrested for human trafficking related offenses. And through the course of this investigation, there was a large quantity of items that were deemed to be involved in human trafficking behavior. And we've put an appeal out to the public for those who may have been involved in this business over the course of several years and may have been victims of human trafficking related behavior. Changing tone a little, moving to road safety. Our monthly commitment to road safety is continued. So you can see just under 600 road safety charges were laid throughout the month of our dedicated traffic services team, but also our frontline members conducting reactive and proactive enforcement and visibility throughout Waterloo Region. It was recognized as National Impaired Driving Prevention Week in March 17th to the 23rd, and our efforts resulted in 10 arrests and 15 charges of impaired driving. And we've also noted of great community concerns the number of pedestrian collisions that have occurred. In a 1-month period from March till April 9th, there were 17 pedestrian-related collisions, 4 of a serious injury nature. And so that we know as the roadways continue to become busier throughout the region with active transportation, motorcyclists, more bicycles back on the roadway in the spring and summertime, that this will be a commitment to road safety across all of Waterloo Region. And we're appealing to those efforts from all pedestrians, from all cyclists, motorists, and road users to share the road with as much care as possible. Moving to some events, so we're very proud to be hosting our 2nd community meeting on race and identity-based data collection. So tomorrow evening in Woolwich, at the Woolwich Memorial Community Centre, we'll be holding a town hall of sorts to feature our work related to race and identity-based data collection. And this will be one of several upcoming events. The last one was held to great success. Next weekend on Saturday, April 27th, we'll be bringing back the Ride Safe program. This is a bike rally to be held on Queens Boulevard in Kitchener, and we look forward to engaging with the community, with many community partners committed to road safety and bicycle safety, and a very successful engagement opportunity in the past promoting safe road use. So bring your family and friends out to that event. And just to signal that before we know it, we'll be in the month of May celebrating Police Week, and as we have in previous years, be hosting our Police Open House on Saturday, May 11th, and look forward to engaging thousands of members from across the region at police headquarters. And we've also launched our Chief for a Day contest. This is an effort to engage with a new and better chief of police and 2 junior deputy chiefs of police who can join us. So if there's a contest that's open, we're asking for a short essay to make a positive contribution to Waterloo Region, and winners will be announced on May 15th. And then we look forward to joining with the new chief and new junior deputies for a day of take over the service in the months to come. And as we are very well immersed in the community on many levels, we're very proud to have partaken in many events such as the Almera Maple Syrup Festival, engagements with Special Olympics as we look forward to the Special Olympic Spring Games at the end of May, and our continued recruiting and mentorship pieces. These are some of the ongoing community efforts and collaborative engagement opportunities that our services partaken in. So subject to any questions or comments, thank you very much for this opportunity.
So you've had nothing going on this month, Chief, exhaustive report, thank you for that. Any questions from the board? I guess for my part, I'm still staggered by the number of stunt driving and impaired charges. Yeah. It's just shocking that, you know, that those things are happening in those numbers, which is, I don't know what to say about it, but that's why the road traffic services and road work is so important. So I look forward to seeing reports and hopefully we can get on top of that. Okay, I don't see any other hands. I'm looking around this time, making sure that's all good. Okay, so thank you, Chief. New business, Doug, I think you wanted to raise something and then Karen.
Well, it's a request, if I may, Mr. Chair, through you to the chief, that we could look at a possible report in dealing with addiction issues. Now, I know the region will be coming up with an overall report in June regarding issues across the region. My concern is what we're seeing in the shelters in terms of addiction issues, police involvement, maybe community impacts. Schwaben House is an example. On King Street, I get a weekly update from an individual. This has been going on for months about the activities there on the outside and in terms of what's happening. And I think we need to have a more wide-ranging report about what the effects are on the community, what the police activities within the different shelters, if regarding addiction, etc. And I want to make a comment also that this is not in any way to be considered a criticism of what the shelters are trying to do or the management, what they're doing, because they do a great job. And if they weren't there, our problems on the streets would be considerably higher. I want to be supportive of them, but I think we need to have the information with regards to community impacts as an example, and the impacts on the police services with regards to, you know, the number of visits, number of occurrences, those kinds of things, just to bring the community up to date and to bring the board up to date.
Okay, I'm gonna maybe go to Karen, because I think your issue is, you mentioned it's sort of related, and then maybe we'll try and tie it together. Karen, can you go?
So, you know, I would support Doug's request for a report on community impacts. I know that many of the community health practitioners are concerned about some of the changes in some of the policies that will be implemented as a result of change of management at some of the shelters that may result in us seeing significant more numbers of people suffering from addictions on the streets. And as well, I believe there's the sale of the Y, which will result in change of housing needs for people that have been housed there for a number of years. So again, community impact, as you said. I do. When I look at the plan for the end to chronic homelessness, I did notice that in the leadership of that group, the police were not part of that. So I'm a little concerned about that, because I believe the police services has a lens that they can contribute, not only to the community's reaction to the situations, but also information that will help in terms of prevention and promotion of policies that may help people from becoming homeless in the first place. So I think they have a very important lens to contribute.
Okay, other comments? Otherwise, I maybe ask the chief to, or sorry.
Just a little expansion, I forgot, also, if we could include encampments. What is the community feeling about it? What barriers are the police feeling in terms of trying to deal with different issues? That kind of thing, okay?
Yeah, I think that's pulling it together, the public safety side, the
Yeah.
homelessness, the public services and civil society, it sounds to me from you guys, or both of you have provided leadership on this, that there's maybe a missing piece. Maybe Chief, you've heard the comments from both the board members. Do you want to try and pull that together and give us some thoughts of how we might bring this back to this board and in what time frame, so that we can, you know, get more information and then maybe have a more specific dialogue about what role we can play as a board and with this.
Thanks very much. Thanks for both the questions and the dialogue overall, and very happy to strive to bring back a report. We'll aim for May. Very proud of the work that our members are doing with so many community partners in all these issues related to, you know, housing security, addiction, mental health, and our intersections as connectors, you know, and we've had great success on a daily basis, you know, on these issues. But we know that the society is growing and evolving, and to tackle this, it needs to be done in a collaborative way, and the board and the service certainly has a role with the region's commitment in the plan to end chronic homelessness. So we will strive for a May return, and I can already think of the structure of the report, and then there may be some further direction from the board on your wish for us to elaborate and to inform certain aspects of the discussion. But happy to take this on, and thanks for the input.
Okay, and so we'll look for that in chief of police reports in May, assuming you get it ready?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
that's good, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for
Do
doing it.
we need a motion, or that's just direction, chief? You're good with direction, or should we do a motion?
Happy to take the direction, and we will happy to bring that to you.
We're good? Okay. That's new business. Future agenda items, I don't see any other than what we just talked about. Information items, Megan, nothing? Okay, so before we adjourn, once we adjourn, members of the media are welcome to log into Zoom with the login details that were provided, or Chief Crowell and myself will be available to take questions from the media. And with that, I look for a motion to adjourn. Tony and Sandy, I missed Doug there. I'm gonna work on it. All those in favor? Okay, and Vice President, thank you to everyone that was